American by birth, Southerner by blood, New Englander by choice. All right. Hi, Pop. Hi, children. How are you? Last time I saw you guys, you were a little shorter. Boy, are. It's called growing up. Oh, it's a podcast about her. We're going to talk about her bread and get more people to buy it.
Mommy makes good bread. I just had a flour chocolate cake with ice cream.
I was really into the one with berries and hazelnut chocolate spread. That was me arriving at Brynne and Chris Stark's house in Oakham, Massachusetts. I had met their kids before, and you're going to find out how I know them and exactly what we're going to be talking about coming right up. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Chris, like myself, is a teacher, and so that's always a thing. You got to ask another teacher, right? How's your summer starting off? And week 2, this is a great reaction. It's probably one reaction that every teacher has. How's summer?
Oh. wait. Good to see you, man. Yeah, really good. How about you?
Good.
Yeah?
While I'm unpacking my stuff, Chris notices that I just got this cardboard box because I'm just starting out making mobile visits, house calls, if you would, for podcasts. So he's going to be real generous. This is the first act of generosity from both Brynne and Chris of the night.
Dude, you know, I've got a box that would fit all this stuff perfectly.
You think?
For you. Yeah, I do. I got it from somebody recently.
Like a free box. While Chris goes and gets the free box and Brynne giggles at him, I want to give you some background on these guys. They are my old neighbors from a place called Oakham, Massachusetts, where they live now and where I used to live. They lived about a mile up, and after waving to each other for a few months, I came over and Chris and I visited for a while, and I noticed Brynne's bread business, and been kind of tracking her and her business since then. And when I wanted to start the podcast, she was one of the first people I thought of. So I was really excited to get to know them even a little more and to visit their house again. Their house is beautiful. It's kind of like a one-room log cabin situation. They've got a trampoline out front. They dry their clothes outside. They've got huge gardens. I'm going to go out and visit Brynne's outdoor stove as well. Chris has got a nice shed that he keeps some of his work in, too.
Did you want anything to drink?
Yeah, actually, I should drink something because my mouth gets all dry.
Would you like water or beer? Or both?
Beer.
Good answer.
And he brews his own beer.
IPA or a Munich brown ale. Munich brown?
Yeah.
Brynne, do you want anything?
Sure.
Twist your arm?
Yep.
Let me set this up. While Chris is gone, Brynne and I talk about her upcoming farmer's market that she's going to be working. I actually went there the next day and said hi to her, and she was she was the best one there. She had the longest line and was selling the most stuff. So we're going to chat about that while Chris is getting the drinks. So we're doing timber yard tomorrow?
Yeah, timber yard. So I'm psyched. It'll be interesting to see how it does for like the first market. So it's so hard to predict about like what to make for when you haven't done that market before, and they've never, this is their first farmer's market, so you don't really know exactly what the turnout's going to be. So it's tough because you're like, it's great to sell out, but you don't want people there and get disappointed.
Yeah.
And then be like, everything's gone, but then you don't want to come home with like half your stuff either.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like frustrating to. It's not hard. It's been
Yeah.
Chocolate cake.
Would you like an IPA or would you like brown?
Brown.
Chris comes back and Brynne slips me a flourless chocolate cake. It was delightful.
Oh, they're dangerous.
Whoa. Good thing I'm on a cheat day.
They're gluten-free. That's about all we can say.
I've got something against gluten. I think that's it. That's what's wrong with us. All right, enough about all that. Let's get into the interview. This is Chris and Brynne Stark. We're talking about Brynne's Bread. All right, I'm here with Chris and Brynne Stark. I will refrain from House of Thrones, Game of Thrones references and puns from here on out. I may put some on the front end, though, you know. But I'm here talking to Brynne Stark of Brynne's Bread here in Oakham, Massachusetts. These guys are my old neighbors. I used to live about a mile down the road, and I eventually moved away. And since I started the podcast, I've been wanting to talk to them and have them on. So thanks for being on, guys.
Hey, thanks
Very
for
welcome.
having us here.
Yeah. So, Brynne, I wanted to just get started into what you're doing with Brynne's Bread and how's that been going for you? How long have you been doing it? And if you could just give us a little background on that.
Sure. I started probably about, I think, 9 or 10 years ago, I think. It's hard to remember because I kind of gradually started with one market, and then I would do a couple wholesale accounts with some local places, would take a pause, have a child, go back to baking again. Right now, I have a mini truck that I have at my festivals and for my farmers market. So Chris helped me design, and he built the back of this gypsy wagon type thing without the gypsies.
No gypsies.
Is there anything in your childhood your parents get you into it, anything like that?
No.
Do you remember baking your first bread?
I'd say baking my first bread was when we lived in Littleton, Massachusetts, and Chris was wanting to bake bread, and he started, and then I shoved him out of the way, and I took over.
Stole my thunder.
And the first few loaves of bread that I made were awful. They were falling apart, underbaked, overbaked, and I just kept persisting. I was very stubborn about it. I really enjoyed it. Got a few different cookbooks and just kept at it, basically. So I just, I learned, I kind of self-taught with cooking as well. So, I used to look at Bon Appetit magazine, and I would just start a recipe, start to finish, and just have fun creating these nice, elaborate meals, and basically just self-taught with it.
That's awesome.
I got to say, though, those first loaves, definitely. I brought them to work, and I'd bring a turkey sandwich or something, and it would be like turkey and breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
You've come a long way.
Chris, how else do you put into the business then?
I'm her builder.
Yeah.
Yeah, new crates, right?
Yep, the crates. Signs.
I'll carve you out signs and do all that stuff, and then I'm the stay-at-home dad during the time, right?
Summer months.
Summer months, yeah, during that time, and then I'm your cheerleader too, right? Oh, taste tester extraordinaire.
Excellent.
Oh yeah,
I bet.
yes.
I have it in some of this chocolate cake right now. It's very good. Tell me about the outside oven. I looked at the whole directions when you built it online there.
Oh, the Instructables on
Yeah.
it? Nice. Yeah.
We
that was
I had attended a kneading conference up in Maine, and it was about 9-10 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. And they had these workshops on building earthen ovens and brick ovens and all this different stuff. And so I had come home really excited. I'm like, we're going to build a brick oven. And it was just on our list of things to make. And so I attended 2 years ago again, and I attended the workshop, and I was like, I came home and I'm like, nope, we're definitely doing it now. And so we, 2 months later, Chris started building the base for me.
I mean, you had a whip, so it was kind of forced. But
slave labor.
Move
there.
the rocks.
Yeah, so we moved the rocks, created this really cool base, and then we used the book that I had bought from the instructor on how to build it, and then we pulled together other online resources, and then it was like a day and a half. We built an oven.
Yeah, I mean, some curing time in between. But yeah.
But basically
Yeah. It
structure
was
of
very
it.
cool. Very cool building it.
How much of your cooking do you do in that?
Not a lot, actually. So I'm still learning how to use the full curve of the oven. I can fit about 6 loaves of bread in there, so it doesn't work super well for production baking. Downstairs in my other bakery, I have a commercial oven that fits 30 loaves of bread. So for me, timing-wise, it works better to use my other oven. But I try to incorporate some wood-fired breads when I can with my market.
Yeah, it'd be good to build a larger one later on in the future. I mean, that was a
starter oven.
good starter. Good for pizzas. I mean, the thing stays hot.
I saw that online.
Oh, yeah.
Look at it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it stays hot for, I mean, it can be 5-6 days. It's still 200 degrees, 180 degrees. So you could dry stuff in it. You could make stews in it. I mean, you could do some really cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Brynne, when we first met, I remember how passionate you were about it, and it really stuck with me. That when I see people really passionate about what they're doing, no matter what it is, it really sticks with me. You handed me books. Look at this. Look at this. And I was into it. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. And while thinking about something like that, I always wonder when people have an expertise or are really passionate about something. There's always something that may not be their favorite. So what part of the whole thing would you give up first? Which part would you just hand off to somebody else and never have to do again?
Oh, for the business?
Yeah.
Well, I've already handed off dishwashing.
Not to me.
Not to him.
Don't look at me.
No. We employ past students, former babysitters.
Very good.
Neighborhood kids as my dishwashers, and I train them and I keep them as long as I can.
Yeah.
And that's by far
I'm glad you gave that.
Oh yes, definitely, because it's just hours of work that is a lot to do after baking and doing a market. You're tired. Last thing you want to do is...
And they get benefits, too. They
get bread.
They get bread. Yeah.
And money.
Carb them up. Get that energy.
That's right.
Very cool. Well, what part do you most enjoy about it then?
I'd say probably interacting with my customers. So I really enjoy doing my market and being able to get the feedback. And I know my customers, not necessarily by name, but by what they like. So if, they come if it's just the cold brew iced coffee because they're not able to have gluten, or if it's the flourless chocolate cakes, or if it's the cranberry oatmeal bread, or, I know my customers by their typical order. So just seeing their excitement and their positive feedback really keeps me moving with wanting to create new things. And
this is flourless?
It's flourless.
That's good.
You can enjoy even if you can eat gluten.
Right. How do you not eat it all?
It's really, I do eat a lot of it. But I would say what's interesting is when I'm baking cinnamon rolls every single week for the market, the smell, it's delicious, but it gets, it's not as exciting, I would say, for me. I feel like I kind of fill up on the smell without actually having to eat any of it. Yeah. So.
That makes sense.
Kind of. Somewhat.
How are your kids involved? Do they like it? Do they eat it? Do they help?
Oh, yes. Actually, tonight I had Vincent. He was down there helping me put labels on my bread. Rosalie last summer, she'd be down there and she's like, give me some flour and water, and she'd want to create her own little dough and add sprinkles and oats and a little bit of this and that. And, so they get kind of excited when they get the chance to do their own thing. And they love coming to the market as well. They want to be my little helpers, and, they want to also be little entrepreneurs and sell their drawings and their flowers, wildflowers they pick. And so.
And their sprinkle doughs or whatever they do.
The bread and the markets really interest me because I'm a history nerd, and bread signifies so much about settled humanity. You know what I mean? The minute we figured out how to grow wheat, grind it up, put some yeast in, that's all a lot of they call it the agricultural revolution, thousands of years before, and it literally changes everything. Whenever I teach this in classes, I talk about how when we started growing things instead of moving around and following cows, or sheep or whatever. That's when we started making, hey, you're not supposed to be in my place. And so all that, when I think about bread and eating and markets, it's just all like civilization to me, right? Beer too, actually. That's a big part of it, because then we can drink water.
Calling us civilized. This is really cool.
Beer too, in the same way, because it's how people drink water was alcohol.
Yeah.
You better believe
So,
it.
just thinking about all that is just really cool. Like tomorrow, you'll be at Timber Yard, and you'll be alongside, like, I think, vegetables.
Yes. Yep. Vegetables.
And other fun things.
Right. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure of all the vendors that are going to be there. This is the first market of the summer that they're doing. So there's going to be 4 scheduled for this summer.
Okay.
And last Saturday of each month. So 10 to 2. Come check us out.
Yep. When you do go to markets, what else is there? Because I know you do West Brookfield too.
Yes. So there they have, we have a couple of veggie vendors. And then we have a meat vendor, and she also sells eggs. We have a honey guy. And the kids love the honey sticks, of course, so they always flock to that. We have another person who does ice cream, homemade ice cream, which is absolutely delicious. Sure. We have another person does cut flowered arrangements. And then we have a couple of guest vendors that don't come every week, but come like a couple times a month. And there's a guy who does some really good sauerkrauts. And it's outrageous. It's really, really delicious.
I love sauerkraut and horseradish.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does wonders for my breath.
Oh, yeah.
Well, since we're talking about market, what's a CSA? Because I'm a history guy and I see Confederate States of America.
No, we're not from the South.
Not waving that flag.
So a CSA is a community-supported agriculture. And so I got the idea. We belong to a meat CSA. And so once a month we go and get a share of meat. And you're committed to purchase it for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And so that way they can plan on, how many animals to raise and customers and income, and that makes sense. So I took that idea and said, why not with bread? Mm-hmm. And so the market only goes till mid-October. And I wanted to bake through the winter, and my customers wanted to be able to have my bread, so I figured, why not do a CSA? Or you could call it a CSB, I guess, too, if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. So my customers sign up for a minimum of 7 shares. They pick up either once a month or twice a month, and they pay up front, and they get a Google form, and they get to choose 2 types of breads and a dessert if they want a dessert, and it's awesome. Everybody wins.
Yeah. That's great. What's next for business?
So the mini truck was the big thing for us this year, is just setting up this awesome display and figuring out festivals and other things to tag on. And then I might try to add on some more CSA pickup locations if I can find some good spots. And then I'm not 100% sure, but it's we'll see where it goes. It's whether or not to, maybe potentially building a bakery on our property, something bigger. I really like the idea of teaching as well. So I used to be a special ed teacher, and I've taught and I've worked with some kids from the Valley View School, teaching them how to bake bread. So they'd come over. We would make bread, and we'd make enough that they could bring it back to dinner and share with everybody. And so they got a lot out of that experience. And then we'd also do a dessert for them. And, sometimes it would be like, what do you guys want to make? And they'd be like, let's do something with rhubarb, because I have it growing in my garden. Mm-hmm. So we'd go out to the garden and we'd do that. And then we'd go to the chicken coop and we'd get eggs. And they just thought it was so much fun. It was so neat.
Little minds. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So I think that would be kind of a neat thing to do later on, is to be able to incorporate baking and cooking with kids. And so they know where food comes from. They have the skill set and know that it just doesn't come from a box or the freezer. It's seeing everything from start to finish.
Yeah. Now, you've done some things with some local libraries as well. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
The libraries?
Yeah.
So, I use them as one of my CSA pickups.
Oh, that's right.
And then I also do a little bit of pottery. And
we'll cut it in post.
You're good. So the library, I do pottery as well, and so I've done a couple of pottery classes with grown-ups and with the kids, and because I have a kiln in my house, so I will bring the clay there, and they can create different things, projects that we decide upon beforehand, and then I'd fire it, and they glaze it, and then I'd fire it again, and they get to take it home. So that was, yeah.
Do you sell the pottery too? Or
I
is
do.
that a business?
Yeah. It's a little bit side thing. It's kind of a hobby. I absolutely love it, and the more I do it, the better I get. And
Chris is going to show us one.
if only you could see
Again,
through the
bread
radio.
and pottery.
They go hand in
The
hand.
basis of civilization.
Yeah,
Right?
You know. So
That's great.
yeah, it's fun incorporating the two. It's just using your hands, and when I have spare time, I feel drawn. It's like, do I work on new recipes or do I go do pottery?
Yeah, there's something about making something with your hands, like generating something.
Yeah.
Almost from nothing.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a bit divine, if you ask me. Cool.
100%.
So yeah, there's a shop in Barrie called Dandelions, and so Chris and I both have our stuff there. So I sell my pottery, and then he sells his woodworking there, and so that's been actually going really well, and it's a nice thing. And then I'll bring pottery to the farmers markets too, and then I'll sell stuff through that.
Wow. Woodworking, eh?
Hey.
Let's hear from Chris about woodworking. How long have you been up to that?
Oh, man, I've been doing that since I was 13. So 23 years. Quite some time. So I started off in New York, where I grew up, in upstate New York, and then worked building cabinets for a farmer that I worked for, stacking hay and all that good stuff. And then he wanted me to build cabinets, so I was actually able to work in a shop he had, which was pretty cool. And he had a buddy who taught me how to do some certain basic things. I worked in a small cabinet shop, and now I do a lot of custom-built furniture, wood turning, big bowls and stuff like that. And then spoon carving, wood carving.
Little spoon now.
Little tiny one.
That's great.
It's a blast. It's the same feeling that turning really a chunk of wood, piece of firewood, into something usable.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's great. Do you run business out of it? You selling it and everything?
Yeah.
Something I can plug for you?
Yeah. I mean, Dandelion, same place. I sell a good amount there.
Okay.
She'll bring some to the markets. This year I'm taking a break from doing any home remodeling and stuff like that for the summer. So it's nice not actually doing that part of it. But turning bowls. I turn a lot of. I can grab one.
Let's do it.
Not finished yet, but I can grab a whole bunch of them. These guys, I gotta get a finish on them. They're recently cut different chunks of firewood, which is kind of cool. Got some hair in it there for you.
So what kind of tools do you use to even
That's a lathe.
after this? Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're coming at it this way?
Yep.
Horizontally?
Exactly. Horizontally.
For the listeners?
Yeah, so basically you use a couple different gouges.
Right.
It's a thing spinning on there. It's literally just a piece of firewood that you slap on the lathe and start ripping it around.
Do you see it before you make it?
Yes.
Like Michelangelo?
Oh, yes, indeed.
I cannot comprehend that. I was like, what are you looking at?
I can touch it.
Because that's what he used to do. He'd get a big piece of rock and already see it inside.
And that's it. You got to figure out, if you're going to have, a flat sawn-looking piece of wood like this, and you want to keep the bark on it, what are you going to do to make this thing look cool? Look like something that somebody's going to want to buy. And I got all different types that I make, but it's fun. It's a blast.
What do you start in conceptualizing something like that? Are you thinking of the base or the top or the bowl?
Well, usually when I first start turning it, if this is a good one for an example. Sorry. There's a little bit of dust in there. This one you'd want to start like this. It would be screwed onto the lathe like this, and then you would carve out the back here. And as you're carving out the back, it would leave what's called a foot. And so this foot, now you can take it, spin it around, and use a type of clamp, basically. It's like a jaw that grabs onto it and holds onto this, and then you can actually carve out the interior of it.
Lathe?
With the lathe, yeah. It's spinning on axis, and then all you're doing is you're putting your tool up against it with a steady to keep it in place. Yeah, it's a little spooky at first, but...
So it might kind of like pottery.
Oh, just like
where
pottery.
It's like a sideways lathe.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like a potter's wheel going this way, you know, because it's solid, you know.
Yeah.
But you'll see them warp because it's literally just as a piece of cherry from the backwoods.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home and research lathes now.
No, we'll have to go down and fire it up.
Yeah, I want to check it out. And then I want to see like when they started. Like what the first ones look like, you know? Wow.
So very fun stuff.
Cool. Let's wrap it up. How would you say your lifestyle is kind of New Englandy? Feel free to think about it.
We like to do stuff ourselves.
Yes.
Big time.
Well said.
You know, willing to listen to other people's opinions and ideas.
That's true.
Of course.
Yeah.
But if we can do it ourselves, we're going to do it that way instead of hiring out somebody to come and do it. You know, we'll figure it out, right? That's
Yeah,
what we
I mean,
do.
our friends joke that they have sold maps to our house for the zombie apocalypse. If that ever happens, everybody tells us.
Oh, yeah, it's the first place I'm coming. For
Yeah,
sure.
pretty much. They
Well, I'll be
swear.
down the street.
This is true. You know where the beer's on draft. But yeah, I mean, I would say that's it. Using what we can, right, from that's right around us. I mean, there's so much you can do so easily. I mean, you can grow your own hops to, you know, to make your own beer. You can harvest your own firewood to fire your own wood-fired oven. I mean, we're guaranteed to have beer and bread for the most part. We just got to start learning how to thresh our own.
we
grains.
need more land so we can grow our own wheat,
Yes.
livestock, and
Yeah, that's a definite. So, but I'd say that's the most New Englandy thing.
I would agree. I mean, I grew up. I was telling my wife, her dad's the same way. If he can do it himself, he's going to do it. You know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I'm telling her, I said, look, I didn't grow up like that. My parents bought a house and lived in it.
Yeah,
And when things needed fixed, they got fixed by somebody else.
yeah.
Which is just a different kind of way of doing it. And so I was like, college books. You
Yeah.
know? And so that's what I got with, and that's why I'm so interested in what you guys are doing. Because it's not like foreign or alien to me. It's just like not what I do, so it's cool and interesting.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Totally.
Cool. What are your expectations for the future with either the businesses or your kids in regards to location or jobs or education for the kids or anything?
And we're staying here. Definitely.
yeah, we kept toying with the idea to move to Vermont many times, and we love Vermont. It's beautiful, but it's just, I feel like it's too hard to sustain yourself. You know, basically, I think that central Massachusetts is just absolutely, it's beautiful, and there's a lot of thriving business here. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities. With Worcester being so close, I mean, it's on the rise, and it's doing so well. It's become such a food hub, which is really great. And a lot of people out here are awesome about supporting local business and coming out and, you know, being your return customer base. It's just, it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And for the kids, I mean, you know, we're happy with the schools here, you know, and we want them, they get involved with what we do too. And they're down in the wood shop, they're using nail guns and safety glasses and everything, of course.
From doing the exercise bike when we do the apple press.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you saw that one posted on there. Oh, yeah. The Exerciter 2000. Yes, sir.
We'll have to check
Yes.
that out.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's great.
and just a cool plug. I got the Museum of Science who are putting it on an exhibition
Really?
in Boston. Yeah. So they're going to be bringing in a recording crew and videotaping how it works, and then they're going to be building a prototype part of it, and they're going to bring that to an exhibition they're going to have, I guess, running. It's engineering, day-to-day engineering. So it's really cool. So
That's cool.
yeah. So Rosie's
Yeah.
she's
So
pedaling.
yeah, so our kids are gonna, you know, we want to give them every opportunity. Like, you know, for public school, I think that they are getting a great education, and then we like to supplement it with the pottery and the woodworking and the baking and everything. Like, give them as many opportunities to find the things that they really love to do.
Yeah, definitely. And still let them be kids.
Yes.
Bounce on the trampoline for 2.5 hours in the sprinkler.
Yeah.
Why not?
We got trampoline.
Yeah,
That's great.
it is great.
Add the sprinkler, and you'll add a whole nother element.
Is it slippery?
Yeah.
Sure.
Makes them tough, New Englanders.
I like it. All right, thanks for talking about business, guys. I'd like to check out some things on audio.
Yes.
Walking away from here and keep going with it.
Let's fire up the mini truck. It sounds so cool when you put it on audio.
As we head out to the mini truck, I strike up a conversation about where they're from. I usually ask people about New England and what it's like growing up there, but I had known that they were not from New England, and I had already decided that they ooze it enough, I'll say, to not have to really talk about it. I experienced it for myself, and I hope you are too. So I strike up a conversation about whether or not upstate New York is New England, and I think I give a pretty good, compelling reasoning why some parts of it is and some parts of it isn't. My master's degree concentration was on American religion, and this is just a little something that I had known about this area and upstate New York. Let's go. All that other New England stuff, I don't know if it's not going to fit. You guys are just,
What's that?
you ooze it anyway.
What's that?
Because I'm always just like, what was it like growing up in New England? Wow.
Well, we grew up in New York, so we technically.
Yeah, that's why we might have to do that. That's what I was going to ask you next is upstate New York, New England?
You know what? I think I used to consider it to be New England, but then you realize it's not.
I don't consider
I think I used to think it was.
I can make a historical argument for it.
You actually really good.
And here, you want to hear it?
Yes.
You ever notice if you start Massachusetts and go west, it's always congregational churches.
Yeah.
You cross the Hudson and it's Presbyterian.
Oh, yes, it is.
There was a split. There was a geographical split.
Oh, no.
In I want to say the early 1800s, where they all said, all right, you go over there, we'll stay over here, we'll do church our way, you do church your way.
No way. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because I wondered, because we ended up doing the congregational church up here, and I grew up Presbyterian.
Yep.
So it's just like, always like, there's no
It's
Presbyterian
geographical.
churches.
It's geographical.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to see how proud both Chris and Brynne were of this truck. And it was a great time to check it out, and it was something I'd never seen before. You'll see me exclaim greatly that the steering wheel is on the right side, and it's just pure Japanese goodness. And we're going to talk a little bit about the truck. You'll hear us start it up and the horn and all that. Oh, right side!
That's right.
Subaru.
Yeah. Stick shift.
Oh, that's weird. How many gears is it?
5.
5 speed.
Five
Well,
speed.
6 technically, because of the super low.
Yeah.
The extra low to EL gear.
And it's got 4-wheel drive.
I was about to ask,
Yeah.
what drive
Yeah.
is it?
Uh-huh.
Is it Subaru like the, what's it called?
It's not all-wheel drive.
VRT, whatever it is?
No, God, no. The motor's the freaking back underneath the bumper.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It makes it silly. It's great.
All right, here we go. Brynne's bread truck. Oh, no.
Oh, and we beat. Ready?
Oh, back it up. Back it up for bread. Get your bread. It's great. Ooh. So what do? You're like, there's not an oven in here or anything. It's just where you set up.
Yep, just set up. So I set the crates. So when I load, all the crates, they just slide right in. I can stack them on top of each other. And then when I get to the market, I open up my doors and I take the crates, I flip them on their side, and I stack them up high. And I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and both doors open up, ready to rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Do you take cards?
I do.
I was like, yeah, that's always a thing. I'm like, man, I get cash out.
Yep.
You got the little slider
I
for
got
the
I got the square.
Yeah.
Yep. Chip cards.
Do a lot of
or
people
regular-
have that on in the markets?
There's quite a few people, but we do some craft shows too. So when we sell bigger ticket items, you just need to have the credit card options, so you can make sure you hit all your customer base.
Did you find it in America? This is Japanese.
This is Japanese. It's we got it off of Craigslist. So we initially, when we were looking for trucks, I drove a couple. I don't know,
You should have seen
1950s and 1960s, like.
You drove a 1954 great 16-foot bed grain truck.
It
That
had
was
double
amazing.
wheelie in the back, double
Dually?
right? Dually
Dually.
window wheels in the back. And it was
Little brain getting up there.
Oh, it was ridiculous. I drove it, and I drove it around in
The rear bed that was
Billerica?
what 5 feet high off the ground.
Oh, it was insane.
Yeah, Billerica.
yeah, it was really neat.
We were like, we're not gonna be able to sell bread from this. We're gonna
Maybe you're like the French Revolutionary.
Seriously,
sing the song.
See, but we can see the other idea is right. Was we can set up a Brynne's bread mailbox, so I can drive because it's right inside drive, and I can deliver bread into people's mailboxes. But we need like a like the paper box, since you.
Is there any legal things you had to go through to drive on the right side?
No,
it doesn't matter to anybody.
No, you can buy the Jeeps that the post office used to use. So, and this was able to get registered here. No, it's only a 660.
After we get done looking and talking about the truck, Brynne's going to bring me over to the outdoor oven. This is clearly the pride and joy of Chris and Brynne. Chris put it all together, and he's posted it on Instructables, and I'll put a link on that in the description as well. And she's going to tell me all about how it works, and she is still continually learning about all of it, and it still just is awesome to me. And I tell them this over and over, that they could live how they are living right now in the 17 or 1800s, and how like human all that is, using bricks and wood and just simple things. And it's great to see them able to put it all together and have the passion behind it.
Like if I'm firing it up, I want to really use it. Like that's my problem. But, But now having the farm cart out there is gives me a more opportunity to be like, hey, I want to bake with this, and then I can put it out, and then I can social media, and then people come by. So I had a day where I was like, I'm gonna fire this up and bake bread. And
do you tell people that they've baked it with this when you sell it?
Yeah,
I would too.
Yeah, because it costs more. There's way more effort into firing it. So
most definitely.
Yeah.
So beyond the bread, Chris and Brynne are going to take me downstairs to their basement. It's kind of their work area and station. They talk about how much they love going down there when the kids are in bed and they're connecting over their respective work. Chris is a very, very good woodworker. He has a lathe, and he's going to tell me all about that. My wife and I, the next day, bought a few spoons and bowls from him, actually, because it's so good. And I'll link to his stuff as well. And Brynne has a kiln and a pottery wheel that she's going to show me too. So these guys are always creating, always connecting with that. And it's so interesting to hear them talk about it. So here they are. Lathe me.
So this.
That spins.
Yep. This is cool.
Gouge.
Really cool fact about this. The owner of this lathe originally was a guy named Tafrid, who's a famous Dutch woodworker and teacher from Rhode Island School of Design. So this was actually stored in a garage. I rebuilt it. So
that was kind of junky.
What's that?
Was it all junky and you had to... What did you have to do?
Oh, I thought you said I was kind of joking.
No, it's kind of joking. Junky?
Yeah, it was, rusted and needed a new... This is a new motor. This is cool. So you got speed control now. Come on, you. And so you can adjust.
Is that RPMs?
It hertz.
What's that mean?
Power? Yeah, it's basically power. So if you want to look at it like that. So you can adjust it to that. So that guy... Basically, you would have this that you can adjust to this. I gotta put a different one on here right now. So basically, you'd have this in there that would fit into this recess.
Oh.
And then you would open that up. I had to put a different jaw set on here.
Right.
But it would open up into this recess, and then you would carve out the interior of this.
How do you make the recess in the first place?
That's when it was attached like this with a different connection system.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you take your... bowl gouge, which is this guy here. So I make all these tools, and then you take this.
Wait, did you make a tool to use a tool?
Yeah, I mean, I buy the metal, grind it to what shape I want, and then I make the handles and stuff.
So then you use it as a gouge.
Exactly.
So you're making a bowl, I need a specific kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And so you would get up to your bowl, and you would carve in to it like that.
And this is the shape that helps you get the bowl shape.
That allows me to get into it. I usually don't use this.
Keeps it level too.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be stop on this thing because when that thing starts spinning. So like I just did a big chunk of firewood and made this one, which I got to sand and stuff. But you know, basically it wants to explode at all moments. So.
This is the kiln.
Oh yeah, it's stuff to put in. So it heat.
Yeah.
What heats it is like convection
these coils.
coils.
Yeah, these coils. So this has different levels. So this is an older one. This is a kiln slitter. So inside here is this little thing. So you put a cone in there of what the temperature you want to fire at. So when it reaches a certain temperature, it bends, and so then it shuts it off. And then, but yeah, and then this is the hood he built for it. So we vent it out because it off gases.
Oh yeah, I see that
stuff that's not so good.
Does the temperature matter on how big of the thing you're making?
No. Nope, it's all about the clay type you're using. And so if you want a bisque fire, so you typically bisque fire first, so you and then so you kind of get the piece strong enough to handle to glaze it.
Yeah.
And it takes all the gases out of it. And so then you can glaze your piece and then you fire it to a higher temperature. And then now that becomes vitrified, and that temperature depends on.
First, I was afraid.
Yeah. So then it becomes a piece that you can use and non-porous, and then it works out really cool.
That's great. That's so cool.
Are we getting the brazen?
Oh, look at him. Him, her.
Good.
It's a him.
She got for me.
It's crazy.
And my pottery wheel was $25 from the Worcester Center for Crafts when they were having their garage sale.
Wow.
And it's an electric kick wheel that he rebuilt the motor on for me so it could work.
Wow. What is electric kick wheel?
So you can kick it or you can get it spinning.
It's got like a big...
You gotta start it?
Well, it's got like a massive concrete and steel disc. Yeah, and it's got a hockey puck on the motor. Come here, cat. Look at that.
That's it.
Yeah. So you can.
And all it does is turn.
Just turns your wheel so you can
That's it.
do your pottery. Versus just kicking it. So kicking it takes like a lot of energy. And
Sure.
It makes you off center.
Yeah.
So when you have an electric wheel.
So that was about 40 minutes of me talking with the Starks. I had a great time. I want to thank them so much for having me in their home and letting me kind of fumble around with the wires and microphones and things. If you're listening, please check out Brynne's Bread online. I'll link in the description. I'll have the links on my Instagram as well. Check out Chris's stuff on Instructables and his woodworking stuff. I'll link that as well. It was such a joy to hang out with them. Their passion for creativity and technical creativity really inspired me to do what I love best. And just the style and the way they live with such hospitality and graciousness is just a blessing in the world. And they're just good people. And that's what New England's filled with, good people. So keep listening. Next week, we're probably going to do another personal Pilgrims Digress. I've got a family vacation coming up in the next 2 weeks, so I'll probably be taking a break. During that, we're headed up to North Conway. I may put some stuff out for a bonus episode as well. So I'll continue to find the best guests that I can and keep talking about the great things that are going on here in Central Mass and in New England overall. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. The music you're hearing in the background is by Loba Loco. I got it off Free Music Archive. It's called Evening Campfire.